Shiny Pokemon weren't originally called shiny in the first place, they were called alternate coloration or just rare. Beginning with the legendary beasts, these games had no shiny charm, and their odds were 1 out of 8,000. That's not the end of the difficult part, because their constant roaming is what makes it a long grind. Excluding Suicune where it's a static encounter, if you don't have a way to stop Entei or Raikou from escaping, you may never see their shiny form again. That's what we save Master Balls for. Other people had to take 14,936 soft resets for a shiny Suicune. That's a lot. While Unknown is common in the ruins of Alph, hunting for a specific shiny Unknown is brutal. With 26 different forms, let's say you want a D letter. That would be 1 in 200,000 odds. Don't think anybody has ever caught every shiny letter of the alphabet in Pokemon Gold and Silver though. Dratini by default is difficult to obtain in the Gen 2 games. There's 2 challenging ways to shiny hunt for this. Either buying it from the Goldenrod game corner for a lot of coins, or the Dragon's Den challenge after defeating Gym Leader Claire. Which one do you think sounds harder? Although buying Dratini's out sounds more tedious, Dragon's Den is much work too, since there will be an elder inside who asks a set of 9 questions and you must go through every single dialogue before encountering your Dratini to soft reset. But going further than the main story, after getting all 16 badges is when you finally have access to Mount Silver. Larvitar has a 5% chance of being summoned on the 1st and 2nd floors, so if it's not shiny, it would have to be searched for again for a very long time. Taking things up a notch, ever seen Chansey? It's on the east of Fuchsia City and it's painfully slow to encounter it. But it's not over once you catch it yet. After finally getting your shiny Chansey, the hardest part is to evolve it into a shiny Blissey. Heracross only comes out after using Headbutt on certain trees, so shiny Heracross would be drowned out by the more common Pokemon. Final one includes careful stat requirements, which is shiny Hitmontop. At the fighting dojo, Tyrogue is given out as a gift and must be shiny. Its attack and defense has to be equal by the time it's at level 20, so certain vitamins need to be on hand. In Ruby and Sapphire, Deoxys was distributed to real-life events. It's incredibly unlikely to get a shiny version of this unless you're one of the players who participated in the event and managed to just luckily get a shiny during the time. Just like Mew, who either required cheats or the Pomek Berry glitch. Soft resetting doesn't work because you will see the same Pokemon generated by the same numbers over and over again. Since this RNG is broken, we'd have to run away from Mew instead of resetting. Also, the area has to be entered and exited every time. Do you remember the Pokemon Feebas? If you didn't, I would understand, since Feebas is fished only on 6 random squares on Route 119. You'd have to fish every tile of Water Patch to see which contains Feebas. To top it off, it requires Feebas by raising its beauty stat to get Milotic, which can add extra steps and time to your hunt. Ever longed for a beautiful shiny Metagross? Beldum has to be got first, which is a gift from Steven Stone. There was also no Masuda method at the time, so Beldum only is hatched every 2 or 3 minutes with no boost to the shiny rates. Now the final Pokemon in the Horn region you all probably know that is the hardest to ever shiny hunt is Spinda. If you have a shiny version of a Spinda, then that is unique to yourself. No one else will ever have the same shiny Spinda as you. That pattern is over 4 billion variations. The game corner returns again in Pokemon FireRed and LeafGreen. It would take forever buying them with coins, shiny hunting, either Porygon, Dratini, and Eevee. Another one is trying the shiny gift Eevee for soft resetting, which also takes a long time in FireRed. Let's jump to the Pokemon Diamond and Pearl that contains one of the most tough challenges yet, shiny Munchlax. Out of 21 trees in the game, a random 4 will only have a 1% chance of a Munchlax. Only 1% after all that searching, and these can take hours for a Pokemon to spawn. This is the most grueling hunt that I might attempt. Before encountering Spiritomb itself, you need to interact with 32 players on the ground, then it could finally be there to soft reset. Speaking of the underground, Cranidos and Shieldon fossils spawn there, but each of them are version exclusive. The fossil spawn rate depends on the trainer ID. Once the fossils are obtained, Oreburgh City Mining Museum has to be visited. Then we save the game in front of the scientist, then hand the fossil over, and the trainer would have to leave the building as well. Then we re-enter it, and if it's not shiny, the game has to be reset and this whole long process repeats. Remember when Dialga and Palkia were at the top of Mount Coronet with Cyrus? And then when they opened up the sky with all the red, green, blue lights, they had a cutscene where they cut to the Valley Windworks, and Drifloon, funny enough, is actually spotted there, if it's on a Friday. Drifloon is kind of hard to shiny hunt unless you manipulate the time. So obviously from Pokemon Gold and Silver, we already know that in Heartgold and Soulsilver, Entei and Raikou would be very hard to encounter as well, as for shinies. And this hunt is extremely tedious in that you have to meet Raikou and Entei at the Burn Tower every reset, Also, we go back to the eggs again, where Togepi is obtained in Heartgold and Soulsilver and Happiny is in Diamond and Pearl. So these Pokemon can be shiny, but they have to be hatched before you could ever know. Next up is Generation 5 Pokemon Black and White. Once the player obtained 3 shiny legendary dogs from an event, you'd be able to find Zoroark in the Lost Lorn Forest, which is actually a woman. The Zoroark appears in battle disguised as one of the legendary dogs, and the disguise won't disappear until it is attacked, meaning that you can't find out whether or not Zoroark is shiny until you attack it. It doesn't even sparkle in the beginning of the battle if it is. And the disguise could actually be shiny while the Zoroark itself isn't. And let's not forget about the roaming legendaries, Tornadus and Thundurus, that have the same shiny hunting concept as the legendary beasts. Unlike all the legendaries and mythicals that are shiny locked in Unova, Kyurem actually isn't. The downside is that the animation of the cutscene takes long to load. There's actually a Darmanitan in the Desert Resort that is exclusive to the Rage Candy Bar event. It's a one-time encounter, so you must soft reset for it, but it has a long encounter animation once again. Winter in Pokemon Black and White decreases spawn rates for all Pokemon in the wilds. Cryogonal has 1% encounter rate on any season that isn't winter. When it's winter, it is 5%. Pokemon X and Y was finally when shiny odds changed from 1 out of 8,000 to 1 out of 4,000. Others say it has gotten easier in this games, but there's still fossil Pokemon in this game, with each revival being a single encounter. Hordes can either be your best friend or enemy in Pokemon X and Y. Because although 5 Pokemon appear at once, the shiny charm can't be used to boost their shiny odds. Also, Zangoose and Seviper battles can be tricky since they attack each other, possibly knocking out your shiny before you catch it. Vivillon's shiny hunt is extra frustrating because each region has a different wing pattern and you can't change the one you get in your game. If you want a shiny of every pattern, you have to trade for a different region Vivillon, or you could breed for shinies manually. Mirage spots in Pokemon Omega Ruby were random daily locations to find certain Pokemon. However, some appear only in specific Mirage spots, making them very rare. The hardest ones to get are Cresselia and Spiritomb. Both have low encounter rates. Ditto never appears in the wild and is a Mirage spot exclusive, as well as Munna. Pokemon Sun and Moon gets even more unique with its SOS hunt feature. It was where wild Pokemon called for help, and chaining these battles can lead to increased chances of shiny Pokemon. SOS hunting ties into Salandit calling for other gender allies, since only females can evolve into Salazzle, and females actually only have 12.5% chance of appearing. Mimikyu also has a rare spawn in Thrifty Mega Mart with low call rates, but the most frustrating one is Beldum. It only has one move, which is Takedown, and every time it uses it, it could KO itself with recoil damage. Even if you continually knock out Beldum as they call for help and they get replaced, eventually Beldum could stop calling, and that ends the chain. As for hardest wild encounter shinies, Delmise, Bagon, and Feebas all have a 1% encounter rate. That Feebas moved to Hawaii, yet it still is a rare fish. Jumping over to Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, Rock Tunnel was the ideal spot to shiny hunt. But Kangaskhan is extremely rare to do catch combos at this location. And Abra, the pain intensifies when it disappears as the trainer runs up to it. We finally got a shiny, then suddenly it evaporates. The solution would be to run at it from the side or the back, so if you're ever shiny hunting Abra in this game, then make sure to never run at it just randomly, because it will vanish and all that time is gone. Cutscenes in Pokemon games get longer as they move to the Switch. All the legendary birds alongside Mewtwo prolong their soft reset. So Pokemon Sword and Shield is based on Britain, and they introduced this new Pokemon that is a teacup. Sinistea has 2 forms, the phony and the authentic form. This is distinguished only by a tiny sticker under that base of the cup. It could take forever to find the actual authentic form and have it be shiny at the same time. Someone said that it puts the odds at 1 in 409,000, which is crazy. Dynamax Adventures in Sword and Shield were one of my favorite things. The rates are 1 out of 100, which is spectacular, and catching shiny legendaries on top of that, that's just amazing. But Zygarde specifically is a tough one. Maybe this was a foreshadow to Pokemon Legend ZA. Right when Zygarde gets to half HP, it changes forms and regenerates all the health. The spread moves that Zygarde has can wipe out not just your Pokemon, but the ones around it too. So if the Pokemon get wiped out, these shiny Dynamax battles get tricky to repeat multiple times. Beldum returns again on the list for the hardest shiny Pokemon to obtain, this time in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. Beldum only appears with the Pokeradar on Route 228. Pokeradar trains break randomly, making the hunt frustrating. If the chain breaks, you must restart from zero. Spiritomb in Pokemon Legends Arceus is difficult just like the previous games, but the reason for this particular scenario is that Spiritomb only appears once, until you complete the Wisp side quest, and it still appears infrequently after that. We have a bad history with tree shiny hunting due to Munchlax, and they brought it back in Legends Arceus, but this time without honey. This time, there are shaking trees which don't get affected by the shiny charm. Manaphy and Fiona are one-time encounters, meaning you cannot reset for them without deleting your save. The only way to get a shiny is transferring from Pokemon home, making it one of the rarest shinies in the game. Basculin is in the same situation as Beldum. They both have recoil moves that can knock themselves out, and catching them is a pain because they flee instantly when spotted. Best method would be to hunt during mass outbreaks and using jet balls. We are finally at Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Shinies are simpler than the old times, or are they really? I actually made a video a few months ago on how to find the shiny in a few hours. If you guys want to check that out, I'll link it above. Ever tried shiny hunting for a Minior? These can't be noticed as shiny in the overworld. It must be battled in order to know. It also knows Explosion. It's like this Pokemon was made to infuriate all the shiny hunters out there. Tatsugiri has 3 different forms, the curly, droopy, and stretchy. During the mass outbreaks, it's said to be the default orange one and not the other 2 colors. So the other 2 forms are harder to hunt. They either have to be bred or encountered in the wilds. Also, Tynamo is one of the smallest Pokemon in the game and is in the water, so it's so challenging to see if it's actually shiny. Just like I mentioned earlier about Zorua, that Pokemon in Ditto and Scarlet and Violet disguises themselves as other Pokemon. Even shiny ones will look normal when disguised. Luckily, your Pokemon won't knock them out if it's shiny in Let's Go mode, and holding down the ZL button will reveal their true identity. So which shiny Pokemon has your heart racing? Or maybe you've had some crazy shiny hunting stories of your own. Drop a comment below if you have. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you're new to the channel for shiny luck. Peace.